Imagine how a pack of wipes in a frat house bathroom turned into one of the most recognizable brands in personal care. In this episode, I sit down with Sam Nebel, who's the co-founder of Good Wipes, and we're going to unpack the real story from their scrappy beginnings to their fundraising challenges, investor dynamics, emotional resilience. We got it all. And whether you're in the thick of raising capital or building your brand from the ground up or literally just trying to stay sane in the CPG grind, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Oh man, this is long overdue. I feel like Sam and I interact, we cross paths all the time on LinkedIn and in the CPG universe, and we've been talking about getting together on this podcast for a while.
That's right.
So we're finally making it happen. So I am super stoked to be here today, guys, with Sam Nebel. And I want to start with Sam telling his story, giving us some background on kind of how he got to where he is today. And then we're going to jump in on the entrepreneur side and give the entrepreneur's perspective on fundraising. If you've been listening, you've seen a lot of episodes with venture capitalists, and angel investors, and investment bankers, everybody kind of giving their perspective on one side of the table. But I think this is really interesting because Sam and I think, are both probably at a similar place in the trenches. And being an entrepreneur in the trenches and being on the opposite side of the table from all the people I've interviewed before, I think will shed a very interesting light on this perspective. But Sam, tell us your story, man. How did you get here? How in the heck did you wind up in this category? Give us that origin story and that background.
Jason, you mean flushable butt wipes, the most popular, the most sought after category by all investors, that all they do is post about it all day like it's AI? It's the best category in CPG, man. Appreciate you having me. You all know Jason. Jason is the #1 most handsome gentleman on LinkedIn. I rank around 72nd or 73rd. So I really like to follow his posts to try and follow in his footsteps and hopefully crack the top 25 in the next year or so. No, appreciate you having me on. Background is, and the story, the way we got here, or the way that I got here, is really, it's an amalgamation of being a lifelong baby wipe, butt wipe user and wiper, mixed with just being kind of a rogue entrepreneurial rebel, not one track mind, but very much, hey, what can I do or build in this world? Never thought about taking a regular 9-to-5 job. I would say it's really that combination. And, the story of Good Wipes really is founded out of necessity. I met my co-founder, Charlie, in the upstairs bathroom of a fraternity house at Florida State University. I'm from Orlando, right outside of Orlando originally. Didn't really know anyone, kind of would sneak around with my baby wipes. People would give me funny looks. I walked out of the bathroom one day. Charlie walked in the bathroom. I'm pulling out my baby wipes, or I'm putting mine in. He's pulling his out. And we're like, wait a second, you do this too? And I was kind of badgering him in the bathroom, and he said, hey man, you need to get out of here. I'm trying to have a moment. I said, hey, we need to tell everyone, because I finally found a friend that doesn't think I'm weird about using baby wipes. So let's go tell everyone about it. Lo and behold, we started telling everyone. They thought we were absolutely bat crap crazy. We had a lot of guys saying you guys are absolutely weird. And then we started noticing a trend. That trend was that the women and kind of the gals that we were friends with would say, wait a second, I don't like the toilet paper here. Let me use that. So it started with women first, then it kind of pulled into the men, and we saw that feedback loop, that transition, and decided, hey, we could really, a couple years later, fast forward, we could really come up with a really cool brand behind this. I have IBS, I have sensitive, Jew tummy, whatever. And Charlie has sensitive skin. And so we wanted to create a brand that could allow consumers to feel good about that, to own every aspect of who they are, to recognize that we all go to the bathroom, and that moment of the day doesn't have to be a shitty moment, no pun intended. It could be a really good moment. And we want you to feel good, whether you're on the toilet watching a TikTok video by Good Wipes, or whether you're using Good Wipes in the process. So it's really about this awesome product that's actually flushable, meaning a feel-good brand, and addressing the common pain point of toilet paper doesn't cut it, And going to the store is actually embarrassing to try and check out with baby wipes. I don't know where to go in the store, merchandising. So really creating a brand vehicle that empowered people to feel good behind.
Got it. I didn't realize you were from Orlando.
Yeah,
Uh,
Winter Park specifically, but Orlando, Central Florida, Disney, Universal, whatever you want to call it, that's us.
did you know I grew up in Tampa?
I thought I saw that, but I knew you
Okay.
bounced. Are you in Nashville now? But you were in Charleston for a little bit. Okay, yeah, I thought I had seen that you grew up in Tampa. So Charlie's from Clearwater, actually, originally.
Man, what a small world. Look
Small
at this. We
world.
got the little Central Florida
CPG
entrepreneurial
crew. That's
CPG
right.
crew going.
Yeah.
I'm going down for Thanksgiving. My dad's still down in Tampa, and my sister lives there, and
Cool.
lots of other family, of course. But um, small world, man. Also,
Yeah.
I just realized that I did this, and I think it's actually just going to work out and be fine. But I don't know how this happened, but we're live. I
Unbelievable.
which I just hit record, and then I was looking over, and we're live. So we're live. we're just gonna
Unbelievable.
we're just gonna do it live, I
Yeah.
guess.
Let's roll
I'll
with it.
I'll watch for any comments that come through. I've never done this before, so we'll see if it works.
Cool. All right. Hey
Um,
guys, good to meet you. Live. We are in front of a live televised audience. I love it.
I,
Fabulous.
I could turn it off, but there's already people watching. So
Nah, let's do it. Welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in.
so we're just gonna roll with it like that. Cool. Well then let me ask you. What year was that again that you originally started?
That we originally started, and I love to share this fact. It's a simple question. When did you start this?
Mhm.
But it's a fact that I think surprises a lot of people because of how long building a CPG brand actually takes. And the number is, I believe we're going on 12 and a half years.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quit my day job September of 2012.
Okay.
So this is we just crossed 13.
Yeah.
And it's funny when people people are like, oh yeah, the mindset that we have sometimes around, it takes 4 years to exit, these companies that go from 0 to $100 million in 4 years and like 4 or 5 years. I always felt like if I did this for 15 years and then there was like some big liquidity event at the end of that would be a major win. But yeah, I think everyone has in their head that this is much shorter than it is, and
For sure.
it's really a journey. I think a decade is like you're just getting going if you're building right.
Yeah. And it's not just, you have to take yourself out of it, because if you're building a true CPG brand, you're likely trying to change something, move mountains, create something that lives on forever. It's beyond just one single product. It becomes, whether or not it's a platform, just whatever that brand means,
Yeah,
echoes and reverberates throughout history. And right, you want to build the next quote unquote Procter and Gamble. So you can say I'm around for 10 years or I built it for 20 years, but really it's about the brand lasting forever. So however much time, if you care truly enough about it, shouldn't matter how much time you're devoting to it as long as it's built off the right way. And the truth is that CPG brands, consumer brands, take a long time to get that word of mouth spread, to get that trial, that repeat, that loyalty, that fandom for a brand. It's not, even the biggest 200 $300 million companies that are around right now did not just happen in 5 years. Absolutely not. Can't think like that. Wrong business.
100%. When I was, we launched a ketchup under our Noble Made brand.
I love it. I
when
love the ketchup. I love the sauces.
and we used to talk about how Kraft Heinz had 150-year head start on that. So like everyone just temper your expectations a little bit. We didn't have it's 150 years ahead of what we're trying to do. So it is a long game. Um, uh, the less I compress my timeline. I mean, look, there's always fine to have a sense of urgency, or like there's a moment in time where you go harder than others and things ebb and flow. But you just have to have that long-term mindset, or else you'll drive yourself crazy and you'll feel like a failure all the time also. So,
Yep.
Anyway, all right. Well, we're talking about fundraising. So I imagine in that 12 and a half years of starting a CPG brand, you needed some money along the way.
Yeah, I think it's very uncommon for CPG brands, even when they have explosive growth or amazing cash flow or they're hyper profitable, you still hear about those types of brands going out and fundraising all the time. Doesn't mean that you need it. If you're small on your bootstrap and you're saying, shaking in your boots, saying, hey, I don't ever want to raise capital, there are ways that you can grow without raising capital. It's better to think that if you really want to grow a big brand that's going to explode in over 3, 5, and 10 years, that it's probably going to be part of your capital stack. Number one, equity, most likely debt, but also thinking about that you're going to have other partners at the table. And I think that's what people should prepare themselves for.
Yeah. 100% agree with you. I mean, look, the cost of entry is expensive. So when you want to go into brick and mortar retail and you want to enter that, it's expensive. The cost of carrying finished goods inventory is expensive. The cost to create trial and brand awareness. I mean, all of those are things that, again, I think there are scrappy ways that you can bootstrap and that you can fund
Hmm.
yourself along the way. I don't want to say it's a requirement, but I don't know many people who have had great success building like iconic brands that haven't had to raise money along the way. I haven't seen
For,
it yet.
for sure. Even if you look at Breeze right now, which is the hottest THC cannabis infused wellness and beverage brand, absolutely on fire. They're deciding, I think their run rate is at least 60 million. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And they're going out to raise money right now from angels. There could be numerous types of strategy, whether you're growing at a super fast clip. Like there's a number of reasons why a company would want to raise capital.
Yep. Are you free to share kind of your journey and how you figured out how to build your capital stack? Did you have this planned in advance, or were you just like in the middle of it and went, "Oh shit, I need to find $500,000"?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of piecemealing it, right? I think it's you can only kind of raise as much as big as the size that you are, and if you're still kind of figuring out where you are in the marketplace, you have to. It's that double-edged sword that entrepreneurs face all the time. The investor wants more information, but you need more money to get them that data and create more of a buzz or build a bigger brand. And so I think that the same is true for just as you're thinking about building your business. Like if you've done 3 million in revenue, it's going to be really hard to go out and raise a 10 million or $20 million brand, or excuse me, a round, right? And so I think you have to kind of think of it incrementally that, hey, what I would say is planning in advance and saying, I'm probably going to be raising every 2 to 3 years. I don't want to, but this is how I'm thinking about setting this up, and have these linear milestones, which are not predictable, but at least you should be thinking about them. I think is the best way to go about that. And also start looking at a mix of capital stacks. So mixing between angels, between private equity or VC, and mixing with that, the facilities out there, your Dwights, your the other one that starts with an A, whatever, and kind of figure out those hybrids, and knowing that your journey is going to change every 2 years. Drastically, your company will look different beyond the capital stack, the type of people, the number of people, the type of accounts, the number of accounts, the operations. It's a constantly revolving and evolving type of business that you're building.
Yeah, I've always struggled with like 3-year plans or like 5-year goals and things. Not just because it's so different every 6 months. It's
Yeah.
like it's every 6 months. I'm going, oh, I think it's important to have those like
Yeah.
milestones out there in front of you and like those flag poles you're chasing, but also just realizing that it's probably going to look different than you thought.
100%. I would say I've been pretty maniacal about saying, hey, 3-year plan, 5-year plan. I look at a 10-year, 20-year vision of where we could go.
Yeah.
But the longer that goes on, even just this past year, recognizing that some opportunities that can transform your business happen in minutes, moments. It could be a retailer meeting. The retailer could say, hey, we actually want this item from you. You get back to them in a day with a rendering. You say, hey, the sample's on the way. And that could be 500,000, $2 million in new revenue, but also could transform your company, right? That you have to be open to those things. So I think it's a little bit of both. It's that balance, which I find is really critical for running a business, being an entrepreneur, CPG, which is I want to have this roadmap of where we're going, but I'm also open to the moments of magic that happen along the way. And that could happen in fundraising, that could happen in business milestones. Yes, moments of magic. You could steal it. Well, we could share it. We could collab on it.
I really like being open to moments of magic. There's like a book title in there, like Moments of Magic. Like, man, it's good.
I might author it.
All right, if it just mention me in the book once, that's fine.
Yo, you got it. Yeah, we're gonna have, in the middle of the books when it has the pictures to do
Yes,
the little
yes,
break. We'll have the pictures of this interview and get some snippets and quotes out of there
little
for sure.
screenshots.
Yeah,
Perfect. That's a good one though, man. Right on the fly, Moments of Magic. I really like it.
you bet.
Do you have any that you want to reference in this conversation? Do you have any that are like, what are some of those moments that have happened to you along the way that really stand out?
Trying to think. I want to come up with something good on the fly with this. With the oh, you know what? I have an amazing moment of magic to share.
Love it. Let's go.
Okay, so we've always talked about field marketing for years at Good Wipes. It's in Charlie and I's DNA. We've always been promoters. We threw events. We worked at a supplement franchise called Complete Nutrition, so we're always very comfortable going to events. And really, I believe a lot of sales in CPG sounds crazy, right? Because you need to be at the retail shelf. That's where most of the volume's coming from. But so much greatness happens in the field when you're talking one-on-one, educating a consumer about your product and your category.
Yeah.
We had an opportunity to brand a porta potty, actually bring and brand a porta potty a week before an event started here in Atlanta, Georgia, called Virginia Highlands Porch Fest. This was last May. We were kind of like, I don't know about that. And then within a week, we put it all together. We had a line out the door, probably had 5,000 people come through. We had a 20-person line one way, 20-person line the other way. It was awesome. We did man on the street interviews. We passed out 20,000 samples. It was unbelievable. We came back and said, what if we really made this a thing? Like, we talked about it. What if we actually did it? And it was from that event that we grew the courage to say, let's go create this golden porta palace, which we did last year, built that out, started beta testing that in a couple different types of markets. And now we've been to 15 festivals this year. We just recently finished up Diplo's Run Club last week, the number 170th most played artist on Spotify. Diplo was hanging out, used our bathroom, along with thousands of other people. We were at Coachella last year, Windy City Smokeout, a number of events, right? So it was just being open to that idea. And while you can't, you need some of that rigor, especially when you're small and focused, right? You can't just say yes to everything. But it's kind of understanding, hey, what is that one thing that we could actually rally around? And you never
Yeah.
know when that could blow up for you, or if it just becomes a dud. So what? You learn, right?
you know, the event side and the field marketing piece seems like such a natural fit for your brand too. Like that just seems like holy smokes, so it's the right play. But you have to be open to it. You can't just go in with a rigid mindset of like this is our playbook and this is how we operate,
For
and
sure.
then you miss that moment. I had a similar, well, not the same, but since it's so close to Halloween, we had Halloween, this past weekend, and
Yeah.
I have two daughters. They're 9 and 10. Well, my 10-year-old's about to turn 11, so 9 and 11, and they had this idea that they wanted to stay at the house instead of trick or treat, and they wanted to build a little dirty soda stand in front of the house.
Nice.
And, I was like, man, that's a lot of work. Like, why don't you just take
Hmm.
this bucket and go walk around the neighborhood and get your candy and, call it. And so they were like adamant, right? So my wife kicked into gear and bought all the syrups and the tablecloths and like did all the setup and all the things. And I mean, she had a full on like mini retail shop. Like it
That's
was like
awesome.
and like a few signature drinks. It's awesome. We had a line around the block, and I had meat sticks out there on the table so that people could, snack while they were waiting, and they didn't eat just candy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I gave away hundreds of mini meat sticks to
See,
people.
exactly.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And the popularity of our house like started to like
Explode. Yeah.
infiltrate the neighborhood, and then just people just kept coming. They're like, we heard about this house, like you guys have the best house. And I was like, we just have a table out front with dirty sodas and a bunch of meat sticks. But it was like a moment, right? You
Yeah.
create this moment of magic that people feel something, and like it was just again being open to that, I think, created opportunities that might not have existed otherwise and exposed people. It wasn't really about me, but since they were hosting, I was like, we may as well give out some meat sticks here. And it was just such a moment in the neighborhood. It was
And that's
so
the
cool.
scrappiness that you're talking about, right? Those 200, those 300 people, you're going to see an uptick. You may or may not see an uptick, but you have to believe in the magic of that type of field market.
Yeah, I mean, bullseye target market, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
So anyway, I love that. I love that story. Thank you for sharing it. So I want to get into it a little bit here with you around fundraising, given that's the
Yeah.
primary topic here. So In your journey and having to go out and raise capital, again, whether it be debt or equity or combination of the both, what have you found to be some of the most difficult parts of that process for you as an entrepreneur in the trenches?
Yeah, I think the timeline is probably the most difficult part. And you may talk to people and say, oh, we raised in 3 months or 6 months. My biggest advice or general thing that I would have told myself is ignore all of the headlines that you see out there. Don't read one of them. Don't read how much someone raised. Doesn't matter if they raised 2.5. Doesn't matter if they raised in pounds or Canadian dollars or USD. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what they raised. If they raised 25 million, 75 million like David, you just have to figure out what's best for your business. It's not even comparable about what's going on in the market. You can get a list, sure, from well, not angel list, whatever the private equity, deal holder is. It's so irrelevant at the end of the day. All that ends up mattering if you're going to work with VC or private equity is what happens around the deal mechanics in your deal. And yeah, maybe if you have a beef jerky company and there's 5 other beef jerky brands, you can get some comps going, but there's likely going to be different nuances. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the market because there's going to be natural inherent differentiation, whether you decide to self-manufacture, whether you have different product lines or whatever the case may be, just as an example, that make the components of your deal or your transaction or relationship completely different than anyone else. So really don't worry too much about what else is going on in the market and just keep your head down, build the best business you can, and prepare to work some extra hours to make sure that you can shorten that timeline if you can for what the deal looks like. And that timeline, it actually can work in your favor in a number of ways as well. You have to be open to that. It sucks. Like you want to be spending the most amount of time running your business, but if you're deciding to do that, then it's going to take as long as it's going to take, right, to raise that capital. And by that happening, you have to make sure one has to make sure that you're managing that timeline and thinking, hey, this actually could be good for me because my business is only getting better over time, or it better be. Otherwise, it's not going to be a fun fundraise for you.
You certainly don't want to have down months in the middle of
Yeah,
a
no,
fundraise.
you don't. You don't.
Yeah, it works to your advantage if you're progressing in that
Yep,
and things are advancing.
for sure.
Have you ever set like hard timelines when you've gone it alone? Like I understand like when you use an investment banker, like they set pretty rigid time frames. They
Hmm.
send out a big executive overview and they say, hey, look, anybody that wants to read the deeper docs needs to indicate
Yep,
interest by a certain date. And
yep.
then after that, if you want phone calls with the founders, we need that by this date. Have you ever run a process where you've had to raise money kind of following that kind of rigor?
I think we tried. We never used a bank or anything. I think we tried to do that, but it doesn't matter. I think a good counterpart will respect the timeline of your business as best as they can anyway, and not drag things out. But also, if there's things that they have to do, like it's really important. I'll try to echo this, that entrepreneurs at least try to put themselves in the investor shoe. It's institutional capital. It comes from typically not a high net worth individual. You're talking about institutions that have reporting requirements, that have they're taking money from pension funds. So you have to have this, even though you don't care as much, you may not care. You have to have this understanding and respect of, hey, you're talking about the school teachers of Nebraska's pension fund here that's investing. They're not just going to end up like stroking checks or like not nilly willy. Like this is very, very, very serious capital. So there's going to be thorough due diligence on your company to make sure that you are who you say you are. You're not, fraudulent, but also to make sure that it's a healthy organization as well.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's fair. I guess that's probably more important when the process is really broad. You've cast the net to
Yeah,
100 different VCs, and you kind of have to round everybody up, or you are chasing a bunch of angel investors,
sure. Yeah.
and like you have
I
to
I think I
create.
think with angels, it can work because angels may drag their feet. I got a deck sent to me the other week, and they're like, "You need to commit by this, whatever." And in my head, I'm like, "Okay, well, I know I'm not. I don't think I'm going to invest in this." And so by doing that, you just respond, like you respect that timeline. That's fine, right? They're hurting a bunch of sheep, and they're not going to care as much as, right. It's just different dynamics, and I think people need to respect that and understand that.
So what's the biggest myth you think that exists when it comes to like CPG entrepreneurs and raising money?
I think the biggest myth goes back in part to what I was saying before, which is that timeline or reading headlines. Ignore headlines. Headlines are myths. There's no 4, 5, 6, 7x multiple on revenue. It's going to be off net revenue. It's not gross revenue. Like, get out of the thought of 4, 5, 6, 7x. I don't know if that thinking's still around. I think that thinking was typically around more so of the kind of that heyday, that 2015 to 2020 with the native exit and all those, where it's like 5x off of, $20 million in sales. Great for them. You just got to get out of that. You cannot, unless you really are. If you're a headline brand, if you're a headline raise, you will know, because investors will be in your inbox begging you, and then you will have a leverage market. Most of the time, what I've seen and heard is that doesn't happen. You might have two different investors at the table, but you're not going to create this massive bidding war, more likely than not. So the myth is, forget all the headlines, forget all that stuff. Just go out and try to find the best partner, tell the best story that you can, and build the best business that you can.
The noise that's out there around
The
this
noise.
is pretty remarkable. I was funny there was a peer brand of ours that exited, I don't know, in that time frame that mentioned,
Yeah.
2015, 2020, and there's all this information about valuation multiple and how big the brand was, and the deal looked like. And I don't know. I got a little look under the hood far after the fact, several
Mhm.
years, many years after the fact, and it wasn't even close to what all the banter was
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
saying. All the chatter. It wasn't even close to what the chatter
Yeah.
said. And so I think that's really good sound advice, is to ignore the headlines and focus on you and your deal and what works best for you. The rest of that is all noise, and a lot of times there's things are inflated, or that doesn't apply to you. The category dynamics are different. There's so many variables. Just ignore all that noise and just focus on you.
I remember hearing a story from someone who was involved in the deal, and there was some high flying apparel company. They got a huge valuation, and they, like, a year later, people would talk about the deal and be like, "Oh, you're invested in that?" They're like, "Yeah, we just sold below the valuation price." Right? There's some, it doesn't mean anything, and I also don't believe in the trope that just because you've raised it, like, doesn't mean anything. Like, no, it's very hard to raise, and it does mean something. It means there's a signal that there's an appetite for your product. People are not going to fund a company that, investors are not going to fund a company that doesn't have real traction or legs, right? And so I think people should be proud of themselves and just understand, like, use that capital the way you intend to build the biggest business, to do right by your investors, to do right by the brand that you're building, right? It's at the end of the day, it's for the legacy of the brand, it's for return for your investors, it's for you, it's for your team, and it's to build the best brand for consumers. If you kind of think in that, I hate the, hey, I don't, if you think of like the service or kind of like others, putting others first, right? Say, hey, this is for me and others, like a we thing, then it actually becomes very fun. Like, oh, it's a badge of honor. I've been not challenged. I've been awarded and earned this opportunity to create a bunch of value for a lot of different people that I'm responsible for, or that we're responsible for. That's a really cool opportunity to make a name for yourself or career for yourself.
You know, I love that you said that. So I want to sit in this for a second, because
Sure.
this is an interesting topic that I think, there's a side of the table that really, I've heard a lot of criticism around people that do some, call it chest pounding around, like, we raised X or
Yeah.
whatever. And I want to zoom out here for a second, because I think the way you just framed this is perfect. I'm a huge believer in, like, counting the wins. I'm a
Yeah.
huge believer in celebrating, like, the good stuff that happens. And really, it's because this shit's really hard. Like, everything that we do is really hard. And if you've had to raise money ever, it's really hard. If your company is,
Killing it.
3x better than everybody
Yep.
else, it's hard.
Yep.
And it's hard to have somebody open up the hood, and like start digging in all the parts. And someone said it one time to me. They were like, it's hard to hear that your baby's ugly, and
Yeah.
people are like picking it apart. And so I think it's important. I love the way you reframed that. It's like, no, you should be proud of it. And you should be proud of it for a lot of reasons. It signals traction in the market. It signals that you're doing something good in the world. It signals that to your team that you guys are building something great. And it's a win for the collective. And I love that reframing of this conversation, as opposed to, like, people that feel like this is like some, bro thing where we all go pound our chest because we raised 10 million bucks. Like, no, man, I'm not keeping any of that money.
Yeah, there's so many people are probably paying off debt with that. You could be buying out investors, you could be paying off, the $100,000 in the credit cards that you may have started the company with, paying your parents back. Like, most people I think are waking up to, at least on the platform, LinkedIn, viewing this, like, it's so unglamorous, but and that's why you have to cheerlead for yourself and say, yeah, we did this. We raised this. It was a whole team effort. It is not just the founder or founders that raised. It is so many people are involved with that. Hey, help us with this deck. Hey, we need these numbers. Hey, give us this one silly metric from January of 18 years ago, whatever. Like, there's just different things that you have to navigate. And I think it's a process that everyone should be proud of at the end of the day. It's
Yep.
work, right?
Yep.
It's work with a milestone at the end of it. It's a good thing.
100%. All right. All right. We can move on from it, but I wanted to
Sure.
sit in that for a second.
You bet.
Um, th- okay. So we hit the, like, what you think is the most difficult part of the fundraising process. We hit, like, one of the biggest myths. Can you parlay that into, like, one of your biggest learnings? Like, what are some of those important learnings that you've
Yes.
gotten when you've
Yes.
gone through these processes?
I think there's a couple things when it comes to working with an institutional. I think you want to be very, it's not like you want to be a doormat, but you want to be open-minded and collaborative, and try to steer the conversation being as collaborative as possible. Try to it's natural for people to get sensitive around a transaction, right? But the transaction is it's an important part of it, but it transcends into a relationship, right? So you want to be heading into the relationship on positive vibes, right? Each party is probably going to have to sacrifice a little bit. Each party is probably going to be like, man, like, I don't want that. But you do it because you care more about what the future will look like when a partnership and the build of this thing. And honestly, a year later, you're probably going to forget 75% of those deal terms, or if you're doing well, you're not going to care so much about them. And again, it's reframing and trying to understand it without being a doormat, but saying, hey, they're saying a lot, they're asking for a lot of these things because they need these things, and they literally can't, because of a legal mandate, do a deal without term X, Y, or Z, or this is just how they operate. So you either want the money or you don't. And so I would say it's fine to negotiate. It's fine to collaborate. It's fine to have your walkaways and non-negotiables, but do not drag the deal on, or don't get bogged, because you're not going to do it intentionally, but don't get bogged down in too much minutia. Try to have a check-in every week and say, wait a second, where have we been stuck on for like 3 weeks? That's just so stupid. It's not moving. Let's just pick a number, agree to it. Okay, great. Is that good enough for you? Good. Straight. Boom. And go on to the more meaty, juicy pieces and keep this thing moving, because you don't want it to slow down. They don't want it to slow down. You don't want it to slow down, but they can have it slow down. You can't. So you have to recognize it. You're building it, and you got to make it happen with a thoughtful pace is the frame I'll say. Thoughtful pace.
It's picking those hills that you are willing to die on.
Yeah.
And then everything else you need to just be able to, like, let go. Like, what can you live with? I fully agree with that. Know that going in, hopefully, but if you don't, you'll learn it very quickly. And then you just hit something like momentum when you're in a negotiation is everything.
Yeah.
Like, you want to kill a deal really fast. It's drag some stupid 1C term out for a week. You will kill the momentum of that deal.
It's funny. I got one of the most important pieces of the puzzle in place, and I've apologized to all parties involved, but I totally was bogged down in the wrong stuff, and I didn't know. It was to my lack of expertise or experience in this, and that's why I share with other people. Like, it's okay to call around and ask for people, but every other person you go to is going to, you're going to end up back at neutral anyway. Someone's going to say that's stupid. Someone's going to say, well, that's normal. And then you're going to go back and forth till you hear the same thing, and 5 people say it's stupid, 5 people say it's normal, and you have to go ahead with it anyway. And so again, I've made I'd like to think I made do for my sins and, got the most important piece across, but you don't want to be, you don't want to F it up. You don't want to be a jerk. Right. And you want to get the deal done.
Yeah. We've all been there. I think we've all
Yeah.
done it. And this reminds me of like the mechanics of a deal that I was looking at one point, and I forget who I was talking to, but it was like this was before we were in negotiations with anybody. But it was like, should we do a convertible note instead of a straight equity round because we want to preserve equity with a convertible note? And like, and I understand the arguments on all of this, but the convertible note gets real messy. Like there's all these things you have to account for.
Yeah.
And it's like by the time you account for all these things, like you probably should have just raised the equity at a slightly lower
Yeah.
valuation and
Yeah.
just moved on.
You're going to end up raising the equity round anyway. It's always going to end up like a messier hybrid, bigger picture, taking longer than you thought. And I think those are some of the lessons that's important to think of is, again, be open. You may have an end goal in mind, right? Oh, I want to raise 3. It may take 2 years longer, but you might raise 20. You have to kind of be open to evolving, understanding what the market is sharing, understanding what the appetite is, understanding what the dynamics are, understanding your category, understanding your performance, perspective, all those sorts of things. And
Sam, how many no's have you gotten?
man, it's got to be hundreds. It's got to be hundreds. It's got to be definitely over 500, I'm sure, across angels and stuff. It has to be, if not more, I would think.
What? This is where people underestimate the process,
Yeah.
right? Where do you get the resilience to deal with 500 no's?
I don't know, but I can tell you it's all worth it. And so for anyone watching this live or later, is whatever you go through, it will be really emotionally taxing. Is just day by day, take the wins, cheerlead everything internally and externally, and know that it will be worth it because all those no's leading to the branding we have now, to the marketing we have now, to the team we have now, to everything that we were able to afford because of those where those no's got us, to the right partners away from the wrong partners. I don't remember them. I don't. I have no grudges. I have no. In fact, I wish I did a better job keeping up with those people. Just wait. There's something. There's always something where I would get a little petty when someone doesn't write you back or they act really excited and they don't write you back or they ghost you or they say, oh, we're actually not interested, or it takes them 3 weeks to get back to you. Wait till you're busy and you have 1,000 people emailing you every day, or you're working with retailers or manufacturers or whatever it is, or any vendors, agency vendors, and you start demanding things. Like you're not going to be the sweetest peach in the lot too, right? You're not going to be like, okay, you're not going to always be treated exactly how you want to be treated, which is like a yes or a resounding here's everything you want. It's just not the way that the world works, and that's okay. Just be graceful, say thank you, and keep in touch. You also never ever ever know when you might circle back to someone. It could
Ooh.
be 5, it could be 7 years later. Could be 7 years later that something comes from a conversation when you meet someone. So take the phone call, try to learn something from them, be very nice, connect with them, at least make them a customer. So send them samples and just keep moving forward. It's a very small industry. And you never know when that that one of 500 no's can actually be a $50 million yes for you.
Hope I haven't offended anyone that has told me no, but I've always believed it's such a small industry, and like it's like this big industry with this small little community and everybody talks. I think it's really important not to burn any of those bridges or not to be a
No,
jerk to the
yeah,
nose. And yeah, send a thank. I always try to send a handwritten thank you note, like thanks for the opportunity. I know it
that's
didn't work
smart.
out.
Yeah.
I actually had a celebrity investor who I was engaged with who ultimately it didn't work out. And then he sent me a very personal note just without anybody on copy talking about like, how grateful he was for the time spent with me. And I thought that was like such a stand up move for someone that's
Yeah,
that busy and has that many demands on their time. And
that's cool.
ultimately, like, he was like, hey, I know it didn't work out, but I appreciate the opportunity and the time, and loved getting to know you, and let's stay in touch. Like, just like, such a stand up move. And I think if we could all operate like that, I think
Yep.
the world would
It's
be a
just
better
it's
place.
just ambitious people meeting ambitious people, right? It's fun, it's energetic, it can be a cool thing. you also want to do right for your business too, right? You need to inject capital in the business, then you got to stay focused.
Sam, I have two last questions for you. One is, what do you value most today in an investor relationship? So obviously, you go out to raise capital, you look for the money, you find somebody you're aligned with, but what do you value in those people? To like, what do you get besides money, or what do you hope to
Yeah.
get besides
Yeah.
money?
So I just talked to, I'm actually trying to look this up on LinkedIn because I just wrote a post on it because I just spoke with Will Nitza about it. And what we landed on was Will Nitza from IQ Bar, shout out IQ Bar. One of my favorite snacks is getting an IQ bar and a new primal jerky and just shoving it in all at once, guys. That's the LinkedIn sandwich. So what I value is someone that's going to fill in the gaps. And it may be hard for an entrepreneur to hear, but not like, oh, this sucks, but hey, we really are going to have to work on XYZ. This is an area of the business that we should focus on. And if that investor is willing to get their hands dirty with you and say, I'm willing to look under the hood with you, I'm willing to do things and help you out with this because you're short staffed or because you don't have experience in this field, which you have to just smile, maybe take a day and frown and be like, oh man, can't believe it. But then the next day you need to smile and say, I accept the help. Let's work together. Let's figure out what we need to do here until you're trained up and you're good to go. And whether that's operations, whether that's selling, whether that's a marketing piece, whatever it is, whether it's hiring, is having someone that's willing to fill in the gaps with you and for you.
Love that. Love that. Okay. You've given tons of, I think, golden nugget advice to other
Cool.
entrepreneurs
Love
and
it.
their journeys so far. Did we miss anything in terms of like best advice you have for an entrepreneur today that just now starting? Maybe they've never raised money
Yep.
and they're going, okay, I know I need some capital injected. I know I need to go find a partner, whether it's 500,000 or $5 million. Like what would be like your parting words of wisdom for people that have never raised money but are thinking
Yep.
about going to do it?
Short deck, start soon, get the feedback loop fast, move swiftly, get ready to work extra hours, fall in love with the extra, hey, work in the business 9 to 5 and then go somewhere else so you get a fresh perspective and just bang out emails at night, tweak the email, um, run, try to parallel angel and think of that institutional at the same time, depending on what size you are. And start earlier than you think you need, just so you're getting ready for that. And it'll happen when it happens.
Love that. I love that. And I always say start sooner and probably raise a little more than you think you need.
I think there's a reason that those are echoed, and just do it.
So good, man. This has been fantastic. Anything else
Cool.
that you want to make sure that you say to the world out there about your brand and what you're building before we close it out?
Yeah, I'd love to plug Good Wipes real quick.
Do
Actually,
it.
flushable butt wipes. We have different botanical extract flavors, shea cocoa, rose water, botanical bliss available at Target right now. We're available at all 4,100 Walmarts, Amazon.com, Kroger, Albertson, Safeway banners, toilet paper aisle. Go get us. Your butt will say thank you every single day. In my case, up to 4 or 5 times a day. If you're normal, maybe 1 to 3. We appreciate it. And thank you so much, Jason, for having me. Appreciate it, man.
Sam, it's been great, man. Thank you.
Cool. All right.
All right.
See you guys.